If I told you that there once was a group of wrestlers in the WWE who shaved the heads of some fans and who encouraged everyone to quit alcohol and cigarettes, you would surely think I am crazy. Nevertheless, that's what happened between 2009 and 2010, and their leader was a psychopathic guru who would later become one of the most famous names in pro wrestling, CM Punk. Despite these interesting elements, this clan will disappear completely after a year, a huge disappointment. It's something exciting to analyze in hindsight because it explains a lot of the frustration that the Chicago Kid accumulated at that time, which will lead to his famous pipebomb in 2011. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to dive together into the journey of this faction, the Straight Edge Society, and try to understand how it was able to go from an ultra-promising and original stable to a bunch of second-tier wrestlers in just a few months. You are on the wrestling paradise, why the Straight Edge Society would have deserved much better in the WWE. Let's go. First of all, before judging what the Straight Edge Society deserved to have in the Federation or not, we must know what exactly we are talking about. In fact, the real origins of this group go back to the summer of 2009. It's a time when CM Punk had an amazing rivalry against Jeff Hardy. We remember that he had won the Money in the Bank briefcase, which enabled him to steal the heavyweight title that Jeff had just won at the Extreme Rules show. During the following months, the company offered us an exciting story between two completely opposite personalities. On the one hand, there was Hardy, whose addiction problems and his extreme lifestyle were well known, like his way of wrestling. On the other hand, there was Punk, the man who claimed to be straight edge, that is to say who doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, doesn't drink, a disciplined and strong individual. It's important to be clear this is absolutely not a character or some act for Punk. In real life, he has actually been straight edge for years. It is a personal way of seeing things that is truly important to him. His childhood had been chaotic because of his father's alcoholism, which had pushed him to adopt this philosophy. It should also be known that this was the first time he played a villain in the WWE, a register in which he felt perfectly at ease. For the record, in the summer of 2009, the big boss Vince McMahon told him to come to his office and challenged him to be a good villain, Vince not being convinced he was capable of it. Punk replied that he would be the company's most hated villain after 3 months, which he has indeed managed to be. In any case, this rivalry with Jeff had laid the foundations for a moralizing character, almost like a guru, who already wanted fans to take an example from him rather than his rival. When this program that lasted several months was over, with Jeff Hardy's departure from the Federation, the Chicago Kid had become a main villain of SmackDown, one of the weekly shows. We may not have imagined it at the time of his story with the charismatic enigma, but his straight-edge side was going to be pushed much further over the following months. It is in this global situation that this straight-edge society began. In the first real scenes of this faction, we already saw an element that was great, and that would have justified an important push. It was very original, new, and very interesting. In a SmackDown in the fall of 2009, it was amazing to see CM Punk in guru mode, with his beard, his long hair, giving lessons to fans about their weakness. He was touting the straight-edge lifestyle, and that alone was totally new. Have we already seen another wrestler play a guy who wants to save the population from all forms of addiction, and who is also presented as a villain? It's completely crazy. In addition, it created a paradoxical situation. He wants fans to free themselves from the grip of alcohol, drugs, tobacco, medicines of all kinds, but he is presented as a villain. The individual who wants to help others to be healthier and not to self-destroy in a patronizing way for sure is booed, which is quite amazing. Then, as you can imagine, CM Punk was not alone in his great delirium. He quickly got a henchman. The way this new bodyguard made sense was awesome. This big guy who showed up alongside Punk wasn't just any person. A few years before, he was Festus, a rather marginal and mentally disabled character who became enraged every time he heard the ring bell.
That's what happens to the court.
It's clear that he was a sick brain. But from now on, he's Luke Gallows. CM Punk did with him what he wishes to do to everybody. He reached out to him to save him from his illness. Personally, I think it was absolutely great to use the one who was Festus in the past. It was excellent to explain his rather deficient side by the fact he took too many substances. We didn't suspect it at the time, but Festus was not a deep mental moron but a person trapped in addictions. In any case, thanks to CM Punk, he was able to overcome his demons. Between the incredible acting of the Chicago Kid, the originality of all his great speeches where we had someone with good guy values who was a villain on the screen, the intelligence behind the arrival of this new member, we already had something to deserve a nice push. But that's not even all. January 8th, 2010 will be a new milestone in this straight-edge prophet character from CM Punk. The big day has arrived. he is going to save a person from the crowd. At that moment, we may wonder how he will do this. We don't know if they will be real fans or fake ones, or what he exactly plans to do to help them. We'll have the illustration a few moments later. He chooses a fan from the crowd and brings him into the ring. After reassuring him by telling him he should not be afraid and telling everything that is wrong with this individual, he makes him kneel down. Now this lost young man must accept him as his savior and give up his former life for good. While he had replied to CM Punk that he was just going to try, it wasn't enough for the Chicago Kid. He raises his tone before calming down and will eventually tell him that deeds are worth much more than words. To prove his membership in the straight edge society and show that he was sincere in this new commitment, he had to have his skull shaved. Personally, I find this action very original. Without the shadow of a doubt, it symbolizes this new human being that this character who is now straight edge is becoming. He separates from his former loser identity, personified by his hair. It was a pretty amazing image to see a wrestler shaving the skull of someone who is apparently just a simple fan. With his hand on his head, he has just saved a new person. The scene will end with a celebration of this change and by CM Punk, who says the following sentence:
"He, like myself, is better than all of you."
We had taken an even more exciting turn in this story of the straight edge society. We were already imagining a group made up of bold people to surround CM Punk, who clearly wanted to look like Jesus. We will witness a similar scene the following week, where another lost individual will be saved, always by having his skull shaved. He will also explain that this symbolic act of losing his hair symbolizes the fact that he is letting go of an old life, the old human being that he was. The only thing I think is too bad is not to see these men again who had been converted to the straight edge lifestyle. We could have expected to see them accompany Punk and Gallows during all the following shows to end up forming a real army. Honestly, wasn't such a scene way more original and entertaining than Sheamus promos in 2010 or the politically correct D-Generation X with Hornswoggle? In addition, they went even further in this totally new concept where Punk was shining as a crazy guru. Hang on. The following week, we seem to be back on track again to convert a new fan. But this time things will turn out differently. While CM Punk is in the middle of a rant to convince the spectators to join him, we see a woman running up to him. In the aftermath, she will be evacuated by security. It was a brilliant staging because it put doubt in our minds. We didn't know if it was a fake or a real fan who therefore sincerely wanted to be part of the straight edge society. In any case, there is going to be a very interesting twist. While the young woman is being taken away by security while shouting that she needs CM Punk, the latter has a surge of empathy for her. He asks for her to be released. When she is in the ring, we will learn that her name is Serena, and that she is an addict who needs help. He tells her that he doesn't only want these people to stop smoking or alcohol, but for them to truly become his disciples, that they pledge allegiance to his sect. He will make her sit down and make her repeat that she accepts the straight edge lifestyle in her existence, that the Chicago Kid is her savior. We might have thought that the fact she is a woman would push them to find another way to prove her commitment by deeds, but it will not be so. She will also have her skull shaved. This is a new step for this faction, with a woman joining its ranks. Quite naturally, CM Punk was the stable's big asset. When we talk about what this clan deserved, I think especially of a heavyweight champion reign for him. Just look at his performance at the 2010 Royal Rumble. In terms of entertainment and talent, it was worthy of the best. It was this annual show where 30 wrestlers compete for a spot in the WrestleMania main event. His performance there was incredible in my eyes. He entered there at number 3, which is quite early in the match, to then eliminate several opponents before other wrestlers joined them. That enabled him to have moments when he was alone in the ring. He took advantage of these pauses in the middle of the fight to preach for his sect. It was surreal to see a superstar speak on the microphone in the middle of a match, and especially this one. We can also praise CM Punk's ability to remain eloquent and to make sense in his speeches while wrestling at the same time, which remains an intense and tiring activity. We could see him on his knees, almost like in a parallel universe, talking about all his beliefs. It was extremely entertaining for this start of the Royal Rumble, which usually takes several minutes before becoming interesting.
Who's next?
Like those moments at the 2010 Royal Rumble, where he was finally eliminated by Triple H, his acting was better and better. We saw a man who became obsessed with the idea of converting others to his philosophy. For sure, this CM Punk in crazy guru mode, with a clan of faithful slaves to make him even more dangerous. He was championship material, as Stephanie McMahon would say. You should also know that he was on SmackDown at that time, that he had created everything about this clan. He had even written a script with several weeks of television for him to give to Vince McMahon, being absolutely determined to succeed in the Federation. At that time in the blue brand, we had Jack Swagger as heavyweight champion, Big Show was recycled and put forward as every year. Edge had become a nice guy, which made him much less entertaining. The Undertaker was less and less there. Rey Mysterio, who we'll talk about soon, is mostly entertaining in the ring but not as a character. In this landscape, CM Punk was part of the best in terms of identity and entertainment. Even if the Chicago Kid will be disgusted when he will see The Miz in the WrestleMania main event in 2011, I think he would have more reasons to feel that way by seeing Swagger as the champion and not him. So of course, Punk had already been the champ in 2008 and in 2009, but it remains true that he would have made a good champion on SmackDown in 2010. And precisely that year, the way he was used by the WWE from his rivalry with Rey Mysterio was really average. It clearly shows us that the Straight Edge Society deserved better. The Federation had gold in its hands but turned it into rubbish, unfortunately. In this road to the showcase of the Immortals, we will see him doing big speeches again to the crowd in which he said he was ready to shrivel up all the people who would stop him in his mission. He claims to be the savior of all those lost people that are WWE fans. The most memorable scene of this rivalry against the Luchador will take place at SmackDown on March 12, 2010. We saw a Rey Mysterio with his children, including Dominic, who was light years away from what he would become later, and his wife. They were celebrating Aaliyah's birthday, his daughter, before being interrupted by CM Punk and his new family. The Straight Edge Society prophet will sing happy birthday to Aaliyah, who is not really reassured. He challenges Mysterio to a match at WrestleMania and promises hell to the Mexican and his family. On a personal note, I find the storytelling around this rivalry a little strange. I think there's no real sense behind the Chicago Kid's desire to make Rey Mysterio suffer. Unlike Jeff Hardy in the past, he doesn't embody values that are opposite to his own at all. On the contrary, a rivalry with Edge, for example, would have made more sense to me. The Canadian, who is called the Rated R Superstar, embodied much more the anti-straight edge lifestyle. He has this rockstar character, immoral, opportunistic. He is a party monster that CM Punk could have seen as a bad influence for the fans. In any case, in reality, he will slap Rey Mysterio, who will leave with his family. Even if this rivalry didn't make sense in my eyes, I think CM Punk still managed to create a disturbing atmosphere in this scene. He mastered his mind games with Rey and his loved ones and looked like a real vicious villain. Later, we will see Punk tell Mysterio he had the potential to become straight edge under his mask, which gave meaning to this story since Punk would therefore try to convert him, faithful to this psychopathic guru he had become. In view of WrestleMania, an interesting stake will be added to their match. If the Luchador loses, he will have to join the Straight Edge Society. This enables me to say this is a creative possibility that could have been exploited more so far. CM Punk could have not only targeted the fans to try to change them, but also his fellow wrestlers. He could have tried to talk to superstars with addictions to painkillers, as there are many, and play mind games where he would have used these sufferings to make them join him. It will really remain a regret in my eyes. Anyway, at the showcase of the Immortals, Rey Mysterio will prevail and therefore not become a member of the sect. What's next? Punk will end up having his skull shaved, while Rey will win the heavyweight title. The faction will have an internal crisis, which was not at all entertaining for my taste. Personally, I would have preferred to see this stable grow, like an army of fanatics becoming dangerous, attacking everyone they consider bad influences, wanting to make the whole company straight edge. There were so many possibilities. But in the end, we find ourselves with a CM Punk who has his mask removed by the Big Show and who literally looks like a baby in the arms of a giant. So yes, it was hilarious, but it was still a humiliation for Punk. We can also attribute Straight Edge Society's failure and the idea they didn't have more to the fact that Serena, the woman, had drunk alcohol in a bar in real life, which had discredited the clan. It is also certain that, in terms of ratings, the previous CM Punk reigns as champion didn't make numbers that justified giving him the belt again, even if the problem is always much more global. The fact is that this stable, with CM Punk at its head, finally ended up disappearing randomly with dismissals, totally buried. Without the shadow of a doubt, this clan did not deserve such an awful ending. If it had been used much better, it could have been one of the most entertaining elements of the WWE in 2010. Now you know why I think the Straight Edge Society should have had a much better run. Come and give your opinion if the company has given enough to these wrestlers in your eyes, or if you were also disappointed, if your view of this group may have evolved. In any case, the whole idea is to talk about it together, to exchange our opinions respectfully, of course. We are here to share our passion for pro wrestling, and that is the most important thing. We can say that the Straight Edge Society is fascinating to study. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay on the Paradise of Wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?